Do I need to do a Mike's Mike style recap of the show? Because I feel like I was born to do that. Hi, welcome back to my channel. I scrapped a recap video that I didn't like and then decided to randomly post a forum in my community tab asking for your guys' hot takes and unpopular opinions so that I could just judge them in a video instead. So that's what I'm gonna do today. These are movie, TV, Hollywood, pop culture related hot takes and unpopular opinions. I think I got over 100 submissions and some of them are interesting takes, so I'm gonna go through a bunch of them and give my thoughts. As someone not from the US, I think it's very interesting how a lot of movies are making fun of / making themselves better than other countries. Like take Emily in Paris for example. She goes to France and she acts like the American way is so much better, and it's sometimes even said by other characters. I see it in a lot of movies that they just take a lot of jabs at other countries and cultures and are really self-centered. Love from the Netherlands. I think this is a fair point raised about how some movies and TV shows lift themselves up and put other countries and cultures down. I think it's probably driven by cultural stereotypes or maybe the desire to cater to a predominantly American audience, or turning to caricatures and exaggerations as comedy. When I think about this, I think about Friends and the arc where Ross meets and marries Emily. Emily is a British character and there were a lot of jabs written in at Britain and British people. This only came to mind because I watched it recently, but yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from. Nothing is good anymore. Sorry to be pessimistic, but good TV shows nowadays are few and far between. I can count on one hand the amounts of TV shows I've watched that have come out in the last year and still have fingers left. And obviously with the writer's strike going on, justice to the writers by the way, I don't expect this to get any better if these multi-millionaire companies want to replace real people with robots. I fear the quality of TV will go down immensely. Already a lot of it is questionable. Oh yeah, the quality of TV is totally going to go down because of the strike. It happened in 2008 and it's definitely going to happen again now. This opinion is interesting because obviously so much in the industry has changed in the last few years. The sheer amount of movies and TV shows being made today are just way more than it was 10 years ago. With that, there is more bad TV shows and movies, but there are still really good ones. And streaming, while having its cons, did allow for more diverse storytelling, but it could be that the good stuff is getting more diluted now because of the sheer amount of things being made. But I'm not entirely sure. This is very subjective, but I think it's a very interesting perspective if someone wants to leave their own 2 cents in the comments. Joe Jonas looked hotter in Camp Rock than in Camp Rock 2. My younger self would totally disagree, but I now don't have an opinion. It's just that, like, this hair is not for anyone. It's not. It's only one step up from Lee Min-ho's hair in Boys Over Flowers. I do not like how common the non-white character ends up with a white love interest. I want to see more variety of couples in movies or TV shows, whether it be a South Asian with a Latino or an East Asian with a black person, etc. Well, God, I hope this is not an unpopular opinion. Obviously, there is nothing inherently wrong with a white character and a non-white character getting together. It's just the recurring theme of this rather than 2 characters of color being put together, but I agree with it. I always tend to ship the adult ships more than the teen ones. The teen ones are unlikely to last, so I find it harder to root for them. This is honestly fair. I personally don't relate just because I feel like in shows about teens, the teens are the main characters and I just end up usually being more invested in the main characters. And I think that people often say that the adult couples in teen shows are very boring, but I think that this is a fair take. I see it. Sex scenes in movies or series are better when they fade to black instead of being explicit. I know that this is a controversial, highly debated topic on the internet. I mean, my personal preference would be to just cut and imply it rather than show it to us explicitly. But I've seen people debate over whether explicit scenes are okay to have in our media at all. On one side, it's like if it's handled carefully, makes sense to the story, and aligns with the audience's expectations, then go off. On the contrary, it needs to be noted that most explicit scenes end up being exploitative or gratuitous. Also, it's not like I've seen an explicit scene and gone, yeah, that was necessary. That was needed. That was crucial to the plot. It's a debate that's gotten really heated on Twitter, so I am afraid, but I understand having this opinion. It's also my personal preference. Comparing artists who make similar music isn't misogynistic. It's not inherently misogynistic, but it can be, depending on what you say. We live in a culture of misogyny, so it can happen. Love triangles are awesome. Disagree? No, they're not. We get too much of them and I am tired. Millennials and Gen Z have replaced organized religion with stan culture. I mean, I'm pretty sure organized religion is still around. But alright, just because it's diverse doesn't mean it's good. Okay, true, there are shows and movies that have diversity that suck in quality. However, I think it needs to be noted that oftentimes people will dislike a show that happens to be diverse and then they'll go, look at this. This is why we don't need diversity. And that's bad. Also, I think we should be allowed to have diverse projects that fail. It's a lot of pressure to expect anything with diversity to be really good when we have a range of quality when it comes to not diverse content. Anyway, I don't disagree with this opinion. I just thought that those two things were worth noting. The Summer I Turned Pretty is overrated. Honestly, I'm biased because I'm tired of love triangles. Also, I am team all of them needs to be single and properly grieve and maybe go to therapy before they date anyone. So true, bestie. I agree wholeheartedly. I think the cast is incredible. They do such a good job. I also like the way it's shot. But the story misses for me, so I agree. Like, love triangles and choosing between two brothers is something that I've seen a lot, so it doesn't really interest me. I also had so many questions while watching it. Like, the timeline of this show is insane. Like, yes, they all should be single and in therapy, so I agree. New Moon deserves critical acclaim. Facts. The scene where Bella falls in the forest and just lies there, cinema. The shot where Bella's in the water after cliff diving, cinema. Bella, where the hell have you been, Loca? The best piece of dialogue I've ever heard. I don't care if you put pineapple on pizza and this argument stopped being funny like 8 years ago. This is fair, although you seem like you've been hurt. Are you okay? The fact that romance is super overused in almost every genre and is basically a requirement for a happy ending is kind of toxic and devalues other equally important types of love. Platonic, familial, etc. Its inescapable presence creates an expectation that romance is what makes a person complete, which I think is very messed up. Friendship is magic, people. Why don't we talk about it more? I absolutely agree romance isn't necessary and other types of love are just as important and beautiful to include in stories. One of my favorite tropes is the found family trope because I just love seeing characters with a deep, intimate, but platonic bond. I think a lot of people would relate to the feeling that the presence of romance in our media has set up these expectations that real life doesn't meet, and that's disappointing. And yes, the idea that romance is what makes a person whole is a terrible message. So agreed. They should make new Twilight movies. No, they should not. Your Name is the Taylor Swift of anime. Stole it from a Try Guys podcast title, but yeah. I wanted to include this one because I am intrigued. I have watched Your Name, and I have watched some anime, not a lot of anime, and definitely not enough anime to agree with this take or disagree with it. So I want to leave it to my anime consuming viewers to discuss this. Like, Taylor Swift is someone who's very well known in the mainstream. She's very talented, but people for the most part either love her or think she's very overhyped. Is Your Name that, but for anime? How good something is doesn't really impact how enjoyable it is. Okay, yes and no. If I think something is really good, that probably means that I enjoyed it. Like, I think they are correlated to a certain extent, but I don't think that you can't enjoy trashy stuff. Like, hate watching is still fun. Watching trashy reality TV is fun. Watching something trashy for the vibes or for the nostalgia or for the escapism is also something that I do, and I think a lot of other people do. But I do think the quality of a show or movie does impact how much you enjoy it. I'm having too much fun with this. I've submitted so many, but One Tree Hill is better than the OC. Oh my god, guys, I am so excited because I actually got many submissions about One Tree Hill. I mean, they could have all been one person, I guess, but there was at least 5 of them. But now I'm really excited because it's totally my trashy teen drama pick, and I didn't think that many people had watched it. Do I need to do a Mike's Mike style recap of the show? Because I feel like I was born to do that. Okay, here's the thing. If at least 10 people tell me to make the video, I will do it when the strikes are over. Anyway, I didn't finish the OC. I probably will at some point, so I can't really agree, but like, I agree. All the Rachel Zegler hate is so ridiculous, and the whole internet coming at her is so unnecessary. Oh my god, yeah. There is a difference between safe and constructive criticism and just pure hatred and vitriol. And the hate that I see Rachel Zegler getting is just a lot. So if you don't know what this is about, Rachel Zegler is an actress and singer who was in West Side Story and is about to be in the Hunger Games prequel and in the live-action Snow White. Obviously, the original Disney Snow White was made almost 100 years ago and doesn't fly today, and as Disney does, it's changing up a lot of things for the live adaptation. In a press junket interview, Rachel said that Snow White is going to be recreated as a character with more autonomy. She's not going to be saved by the prince and won't just be dreaming of love. And this is something I would assume that not just Rachel out of the entire cast would have said or would have been told to say about this movie. Like, I think Gal Gadot was also there and nodding along, but people started absolutely tearing into Rachel for saying this and not loving the original Snow White enough. And I understand people not necessarily liking the whole girl bossification of a Disney princess, or the fact that, you know, it's not a bad thing if she is desiring love. Like, she can be a girl boss and dream of love. But people aren't giving the ones who actually work for Disney and make these narrative decisions criticism. They're like, you, Rachel Zegler. Also, there have been many actors since the beginning of time who didn't love the character they were playing or didn't love the project they were a part of. It was pretty easy for me to find TikToks of people going like, why can't Rachel Zegler be like the other actresses for the Disney princesses and actually love the character she's playing? When we've been laughing off how much Robert Pattinson hates Twilight for years. I get wanting actors to love playing the characters that you love, but it's not a requirement that actors have been fulfilling this whole time. So why is everyone getting mad at Rachel Zegler all of a sudden? With this Snow White drama, I'm just so puzzled at how everyone is so mad to the point of being so nasty online. So I agree. I wish Book Talk read/recommended more books starring Black people and other people of color. I feel gaslit that every single book with a white girl/white guy love interest is supposedly different every time. They all definitely feel repetitive and tired, but when it comes to Black/people of color, they never take any care in the characters that they're trying to write, and shit comes off as a huge microaggression. I absolutely get it. I'm not on Book Talk, and I'm not really that well versed in BookTube. Like, I follow some booktubers, and I know what's going on Book Talk and BookTube. From what I know, I've observed that the books mainly being promoted and talked about are all about white characters and or written by white authors. And I don't hear about stories written by and for Black people and people of color nearly as much. And it is always a gamble when it comes to a white author writing a character of color. Like, I didn't read Where the Crawdads Sing. I'm not going to read it, but I know that book blew up on Book Talk, and I heard a bunch of terrible things about the two Black characters that were written in there. It's absolutely frustrating, and you're right, and you should say it. You don't need a reason to dislike a celebrity. Every time I say I don't like this person about a famous person, people jump to ask what they did wrong, but half the time they didn't do anything. I just don't like them. I don't know what it is about social media that makes people feel like they have to justify every negative opinion they have, but it's insane to me. Does it not stress people out? I've seen a lot of people on the internet express disliking a celebrity without reason, so I guess this is normal, but there are two things that I want to know. First, I get why people ask why. Whenever I hear someone say that, I'm like, oh shit, did they say or do something that I have no idea about? And that's something I would want to know. But also in some cases, I think it is worth asking yourself why you dislike that celebrity. Like, there's so many things that I disliked when I was in middle school that was just unchecked internalized misogyny that I have thrown away, as what many other women have experienced. And I'm not saying that that's what's happening here, but reflection can provide clarity. Also, you are obviously allowed to hold whatever opinion that you have on someone as long as you're not being a hateful asshole about it. Like, they are a human being at the end of the day, and I'm only saying this because last year the whole internet decided to rally together and talk about how much they hate Joey King and wanted to punch her in the face for no reason. Like, making videos about how they just can't stand her for no reason and leaving comments on her Instagram and things like that. And don't get me wrong, I hate the kissing booth movies, but I'm not about to go on TikTok and say that I want to punch Joey King in the face. Adults shouldn't critique shows made for teen audiences, in the sense that they shouldn't be offended when the characters don't act mature because they're literally meant to portray 16-year-olds. I understand where this is coming from, but I think I disagree with the general first part of this. Adults are the ones making the shows for teen audiences, they're often the ones playing the teens in these shows, and also a lot of times the shows that are geared for teens are also just geared for young adults. And I think it's important for adults to pay attention to what kinds of messaging and depictions of real life issues are being shown to teens. Specifically in the case where 16-year-olds aren't acting mature, yeah, I do think that adults shouldn't expect 16-year-old characters to act like adults, but also story-wise, it's gotta make sense. Because if the math isn't mathing, I'm gonna talk my shit. People who are child actors need to stop complaining like you never needed to worry about school or work or money or whatever. This is a wild take. Child actors have a long-running history of being abused, exploited, stunted in their emotional and mental growth, etc. Children have no real conception of fame or what earning for a living is, and they're often pushed into Hollywood. Like, they can complain. I mean, I think rich people complaining about money or people born into connections complaining about the accessibility of their job is entirely different, but that's a whole other issue. People who are child actors have every right to complain about their experience being a child actor. Like, I'm glad that Jeanette McCurdy wrote her book. Also, I highly recommend Alison Stoner's series called Dear Hollywood on their YouTube channel. I haven't finished it, but they really delve into Hollywood and child acting and the psychological toll it takes and how things work, etc. So, hard disagree. Award shows in general are pretty outdated. I feel like they don't have much of an impact on pop culture anymore as they did in the 2000s or even 2010s. Like, they're not even entertaining to watch anymore like they used to be. This is true. There is data to support the notion that award shows are dying. I think part of that is streaming cutting into the viewership of networks. I also also think that social media has really changed the way that we like to consume and talk about things. Also, award shows just seem more like a Hollywood business thing now rather than for entertainment. So I think that's totally valid. Like, award shows aren't as entertaining, and I think it's outdated in that sense. Alright, that is my review of your unpopular opinions and hot takes. I will be ranking celebrity houses soon, so that's coming. But I hope you like this video. Give it a thumbs up, offer your polite discourse in the comments, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already.